This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We've got a tight one in Edmonton. How about it? The Oilers coming within a goal, 3-2. After a late score by Edmonton, 11 minutes to go in the third period as a new hour of Cashing Out starts. On that note, with me, Joe Ceraulo, the Kings leading at 3-2. They've got a 32-22 shots on goal advantage over the Oilers with 11:23 left. LA still minus 445 on the money line, a steep price there if you want to get in on the Oilers to pull off the comeback. Plus 325 on the money line for Edmonton. That puck line, Edmonton plus a goal and a half is minus 60 cents. LA minus 1.5 plus $1.25 as the Kings have it right now in the offensive zone. Indiana, Milwaukee, 2 minutes to go. It's a 20-point game. Stick a fork in it. Pacers going to go home up 3-1 in that series. We gave out Indiana minus 7.5 live when they were up 10 and said that, whether you got 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, the CLV police might come after you, but Indiana by double digits with the Dame news felt like a sure thing or as close to it as there could be. Well, double digits has turned into a 21-point lead inside 2 minutes to go. I say the Dame news, talking about the lower body injury that caused Dame Lillard to leave this one with about 6 minutes under his belt, and that's it. It is feared, although I don't believe confirmed yet, that it was a left Achilles rupture for Dame. Non-contact injury, left leg, absolutely terrible. When you see a non-contact injury, it's more often than not an ACL, an Achilles, something absolutely horrible of that nature. So it's feared to be an Achilles for Dame, who obviously had to overcome so much just to be on the court in this series, right? Missed game 1, made that game 2 return after missing a substantial amount of the final month or so of the regular season with that diagnosed deep vein thrombosis, blood clots, same thing that sidelined Wemby for the final 30 or so games, same thing that essentially ended the career of Chris Bosh. So for Dame, just to get back on the court was a massive win, and it only lasted 2 games and 6 minutes, as it looks like his season is over. And it looks like the Milwaukee Bucks season nearly over. Down 24, a minute to go. Indiana's going to win, going to cover, going to hit those live numbers. Let's take a look at some live player props that we discussed and see if any of those came to fruition. We discussed Giannis going over 30.5 points. Only bet the Pacers minus 7.5. Giannis gets to 28. And believe, he's on the bench here, down 26 late. You got Connaughton chucking up threes that hit the side of the backboard. My goodness. That's ugly. He's 1 of 8 from the floor now. So Giannis finishes with 28. Bobby Portis, this is an interesting one because his number was coming in 14.5, and then we noted it ticked down to 13.5. I said I liked both over, didn't play either. Well, he lands right in the middle at 14. Kevin Porter Jr., who had 15, 5, and 5 at the half, finishes with 23, 5 boards, 6 assists, or at least, we've just gone final. So that is how he will finish. On the Indiana side, how about the Pacers? 8 players in double figures. Miles Turner, 23. Nembhard with 20. And then Halliburton had 17 and 15 dimes to go with 8 boards as well. Just an overall terrific performance out of Tyrese Halliburton. Siakam, Spicy P, had one of the quieter nights. He had 12. Neesmith had 14 off the bench. Ain't no stopping Obi Toppin had 13. Walker with 12. TJ McConnell, 15 points and 6 dimes for Indiana. So 8 guys in double figures for the Pacers. Just a terrific all-around game. How about the job they did on the glass? Plus 8. 36 assists, a ridiculously high number. Milwaukee only assisted on 25 of their made shots. The Pacers just took the Bucks to school in this one. And obviously, you can sit around and speculate how much did Dame's absence have to do with that? Well, It's a fair question. It's a loaded question, let's be honest, right? Not to minimize what the guy's going through, because it's obviously a tremendous deal. But when he was out on the court for those 2 games he was healthy for, it's not like he was all that terrific, right? Comes back game 2, takes a while to get acclimated. Game 3, he had 6 points. He made 2 shots the entire game. He was like 2 for 11 in game 3, right? Milwaukee won, and they won in a big way. They won by 16. But it was the Giannis show. It was the Gary Trent show. Each of those guys, 37 points apiece. Milwaukee, and we touched on this earlier in the program, only had 4 guys in double digits game 3. So they're setting the precedent, setting the tone that if Giannis and someone else don't have otherworldly games, in game 3's case it was Gary Trent Jr., that they're not going to be successful. This Milwaukee team is nowhere near as deep as Indiana. And that's a theme that we're noticing, right? There are certain teams in the Eastern Conference who struggle with depth. And Milwaukee is one of them, and they're going to get bounced here in this opening round, right? Teams down 3-1 have like a 5% chance at winning. I think it's safe to say Milwaukee's going to get bounced. The New York Knicks, who are on the right side of a 3-1 series, who pulled out a tight come-from-behind win on Sunday morning, are a team that lacks depth that I think is going to get worked in the next round because of that. Right? You look at the teams that have depth, Cleveland, Indiana, and then Boston is an interesting case because I don't think the Celtics have a whole lot of depth, but they have the 6th man of the year in Peyton Pritchard. They have Al Horford, who has refined his game so dramatically, so drastically at this point in his career. I mean, Al Horford now is such a different player than Al Horford a decade ago, who was like a walk-in double-double post player, and now he's practically a 40% three-point shooter. He has changed and evolved his game so much. It's been a remarkable thing to watch. But so the Celtics may not be as deep in terms of quantity as a Cleveland or an Indiana, but in terms of quality, the Celtics have some real key components coming off that bench in the likes of Pritchard and Horford. Over in the Western Conference, you look at a team that's got depth issues. Well, they have 2 major issues, size and depth. The LA Lakers, in that series with Minnesota, all of a sudden find themselves down 3-1. And it's been back-to-back collapses for the Lakers. And this is where the depth is really showing to hurt them, right? You look at both fourth quarters in Minnesota, games 3 and 4, Minnesota by 10, Minnesota by 13. Lakers led going into the fourth quarter in game 4, and in game 3, they led at halftime by 4 and trailed by just 2 going into the fourth quarter. So the Lakers have had either a lead or been right in it in the fourth quarter, both games in Minnesota, and then the T-Wolves have just dominated that fourth quarter. In each case, the Lakers scored 20 points or fewer in the fourth quarter. Just a team that has simply put run out of gas. I mean, you look at the quarter outputs, and they're putting up 26, 30 points in each quarter in Minnesota. Fourth quarter comes around, they put up 20 and 19 in each fourth quarter in Minnesota. So just a team that has so run out of gas down the stretch here. And, Luka gave him all he could offensively, hit 5 threes, had 38. LeBron gave them all he could physically, had 27 points, got to the line 18 times, converted on 15 of them, had 12 boards, dished out 8 times. But LeBron James, playing 46 minutes on the wrong side of 40 years old, is not conducive to long-term success, especially when it's the first of potentially 4 series. And this is where, look, I've given J.J. Redick his flowers, and he's done a terrific job with the Los Angeles Lakers. This is, I think, where he has exhibited a shortcoming, and that is relying too heavily down the stretch on LeBron and Luka and not implementing more of a well-balanced, deeper lineup. Gabe Vincent's not an all-star, but I think the guy needed more than 13 minutes on the court, right? You got to give LeBron a break in the second half. You can't have him play 46 out of 48 minutes and all 24 in the second half and expect that on the wrong side of 40, he's going to be his MVP, championship caliber killer self in the fourth quarter when the guy is gassed and doesn't have longer than a commercial break to get his legs underneath him. So the Lakers, leaning on Hachimura for 41 minutes, right? Dorian Finney-Smith off the bench, 41 minutes. You look at the Lakers bench and you probably look at that and go, oh, their bench gave him 68 minutes. No. Finney-Smith gave him 41. And then 3 other guys gave him between 7 and 13 minutes. And by the way, those 3 other guys combined 0 points. So the Lakers had some major depth issues. Have some, I shouldn't say had, and it got even worse with Jackson Hayes leaving hurt after playing just 4 minutes. That hurt their depth issues and their size issues. You're going small ball, asking Hachimura to be a 5 against the team that's got Rudy Gobert and Jules Randle. I'll tell you what, this Minnesota team, I slept on them when I said Lakers in 5. You probably slept on them. It seems like everyone slept on the Timberwolves. They're going to send the Lakers home. I mean, I can't see this even getting to a Game 7 at this point. And some people are going, oh, maybe it's time to buy back on the Lakers. I don't think so. I think it's time to kiss the Lakers season goodbye. Oklahoma City's path just got that much easier. Although, I've got some thoughts on who might be the biggest roadblock to Oklahoma City. Maybe you've heard me say it, maybe you haven't. If you haven't, I'll say it in a little bit. But folks, are you looking for a new way to feel the rush this Kentucky Derby? If so, First Bet is your front row seat to the fastest 2 minutes in sports and so much more. Bet on the Derby and hundreds of other races every day at firstbet.com. It's the number one, stbet.com. New users can use the promo code VEASAN200 to grab a $200 sign-up bonus. Get ready. The Derby starts at firstbet.com, so don't miss out and start betting today with our friends at firstbet.com. Also, with the most exciting 2 minutes in sports almost here, VEASAN has your inside track. Get expert picks, betting strategies, and everything you need for Derby Day. Find all of our Derby coverage over on the new and improved VEASAN Watch app. Up next, going to look at a Monday MLB slate coming up with our friend Colby Conway from Fantasy Alarm. You don't want to miss it. It's Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, getting your week started the right way on this program right here on VEASAN. And as we start the week with a Monday MLB slate that I can't wait for, who better to break it all down with us here on the show than our friend joining us on the Progressive Guest Line from Fantasy Alarm, Colby Conway, calling into the program. Colby, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Another good week of baseball on the schedule, so cannot complain.
Yeah, I love it. We're starting to get into a rhythm here, starting to, recognize some trends, see maybe who came out of the gate, who was a little bit of a pretender, who could be a contender. We still have, I would say, another good month to learn about these teams. Usually June 1st, you start to get a bit of a gauge, and then it seems like every year there's some sort of surprise, whether it was, the Nats back in 2019 going from the basement to the top, like last year's Mets. So you never fully have a grasp on these guys, but what's something you've noticed, maybe a trend, a pattern, something you've been able to bet through the first month of the season here?
Ooh, there's been some interesting ones. I used to love attacking Coors Field, but it's so hard to do it because it's only one offense you can really bet on over there. Because Colorado doesn't do anything. They're 1-14. Or I'm sorry, at home they're 3-9. They go for 1-14 on the road. They're one of the worst offenses just overall in baseball. So you see these big totals at Coors Field, and it's like, am I liking the over 10.5 or 9.5 here? And it's like, you might as well just ask yourself, do I like the opposing offense? Because they're going to have to do 80% of the work, even at Coors Field, at altitude, with wind blowing out. That Colorado offense doesn't give you much help at all when you bet on games there.
Yeah, maybe it's time to start looking at some team totals for these visiting teams. Or, Saturday I worked in a little same-game parlay. It was Hunter Green strikeouts and Reds money line, and a little sweatier than I expected it to be because the Rockies actually, they laid an egg on Sunday, but Saturday they actually touched Green up a little early. Michael Toglia displayed some of his power, but then it was nothing after that later on in the game. Let's get to Monday's slate. I was looking at this one, and I was leaning towards the direction of Cleveland money line. Bailey Ober, Gavin Williams opposing each other, Twins, Guardians. What's your play here?
I don't know if there's going to be many runs scored in this one. And when you look at face value, you see Bailey Ober's numbers. You see your eyes will get a little bit big looking at that ERA north of 5. But just take that first start away. Then you got a sub 2.5 ERA. I believe it's 4 straight quality starts for him. I do believe we're going to have a little bit of wind blowing out, which isn't ideal. So we'd want to see some more ground balls from Bailey Ober. But ultimately, in this matchup, you got 2 pitchers who've had good success against their opposition. over the past year or two. This Minnesota offense at times can just be downright dreadful. They're really, really bad on the road. And when you look, they've scored 5 or more runs in just 2 of 13 road games this year, a 72 WRC plus. I love Gavin Williams adding in a new pitch, added a sweeper, just like what seems like every other pitch in baseball, to their pitch mix. So I don't like a lot of runs scored here. I think, honestly, both teams have a shot here, but ultimately I'm going to go with the under. I believe I saw it at 8 in this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair.
Yeah, how about Twins hitters? 4 for 23 off Williams. A little bit of a bigger sample size. Ober facing Cleveland. Guardians hitters, 8 for 69 off of Ober. It's a 116 clip, the 174 clip, the Twins against Williams. So to your point, that was a great point. Both of these pitchers have a lot of success against each opposing lineup. Here's a play I like. The Athletics, one of the few teams, we talked about trends and patterns betting baseball earlier this year. Home teams have had incredible success in the early going of the season. The Athletics, an exception to the rule. They've been better on the road. They're at Texas. It's a pick 'em. Couple of lefties, J.P. Sears, Patrick Corbin. Which side are you on here?
Give me the Athletics here. When they say when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, or when the MLB slate gives you Patrick Corbin, you bet the other team. Listen, I know Corbin has been fine this year. I get it. I have a hard time believing that this old lefty who's been a 5+ ERA pitcher the past couple of years, this is his version of him. You look, there's going to be without Corey Seager. Josh Jung just continues to have these freak injuries pile up. I think he's going to play Monday, but kind of lacerated his finger off a swing where he broke his bat. So if he's not in the lineup, you just have to avoid Wyatt Langford. And J.P. Sears has been very, very good. Texas hasn't been that good against lefties of late. And very interesting here, when you look at Corbin, he's actually exhibited some reverse splits this year where left-handers have gotten to him a lot more, whereas last year it was the righties that give him fits. And this Athletics lineup has some lefties that can, hit southpaws. If you look at it overall, they just have some guys against lefties that get it done. When you look for the year, Jacob Wilson has a 177 WRC plus against lefties. As a lefty, you got J.J. Bleday, who's got a 619 slug.
Yeah, this A's lineup has certainly been a pretty dynamic one. And this was a team, preseason, we were profiling them, and I said, look, I'm not going to go crazy and say that they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're a last place team, and I think that they're a team, they've got a lot of games down the stretch with Houston, Seattle, Texas. I said this was a team I thought could play spoiler in September, maybe win closer to 80 games than 70 games. And right now, the pitching, there's certainly some question marks, especially in that ballpark, that bandbox in Sacramento. But I love this Athletics lineup, and I'm with you. I think that they can totally take it to Corbin, who you said last couple of years, he's got an ERA right around 5. That's been the last 5 years, really, ever since that championship season, starting with the COVID campaign in 2020. It has just been 5 years of consistent, horrendous baseball for Patrick Corbin. How about an over? We started with an under. You got an over, is an under in the AL Central. How about the NL Central? All right, looks like we might have some audio issues with Colby. We'll try to call him back so we can get that last play out of our friend Colby Conway. But while we wait to get him on the line, I'll just break down some of the rest of these games on the slate. And I'll tell you early where I'm going. I'm not sure in which capacity just yet, but I see Jack Flaherty on the bump for Detroit. And they're going up against the Houston team and Ronel Blanco, who, remember that incredible April Blanco had a year ago? He had that no-hitter in his first start. And then he had another start against Texas on Sunday Night Baseball. It might have been on Easter, where he was absolutely lights out. And I'm not sure if he threw a shutout or if it was, like 7 innings of no-hit ball. But Ronel Blanco could not have had a better start to the season than what he turned in last year. I believe he was an all-star at age 30. Now, this year, he's got an ERA north of 5. He's coming off his best start of the year, 6 2/3 of 1-run ball. But prior to that, hadn't gone deeper than 5 innings in a single game in his first 4 starts. You look, 5 innings, 3 earned, 5 innings, 2 earned, 1 2/3, 4 earned against, a bad Twins lineup, 5 innings, 3 earned. So consistently getting hit. And Jack Flaherty has been, I think, far better than his record would certainly indicate. 1-2 record on the year, 2.6 ERA. Tigers have not given him run support. They haven't scored in his last 2 starts, but Flaherty's been absolutely fine. 6 innings of 2 earned last time out against the Padres, struck out 9. He's K'd 9 or more twice this year, 7 or more, 3 out of 5 starts. So I might be looking towards a potential K prop for Flaherty. I went outs recorded last time at 16.5. It got moved up to 17.5. He went over both of those marks. So I think that Jack Flaherty might be a guy worth a look in the prop market. Now, I'm being told we have Colby back on the line, our friend Colby Conway from Fantasy Alarm. As I was saying, Colby, you gave us an under in the AL Central. How about an over in the NL Central? What else do you like on the Monday slate, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go to Great American Ballpark, a.k.a. Great American Small Park, and what we see is Andre Pallante is going to toe the rubber for the Cardinals, and he was good through the first couple of starts, but the wheels have come off a little bit of late, and since he is no stranger to putting up some big offensive performances in their home park, I think we might even have a little wind blowing out. We'll have to check back closer to game time when we get to game time on Monday. But you have Nick Martinez, who's borderline allergic to ground balls this season, an ERA near 6 at home this season, really struggled with lefties. Should be a warm day there as well. So I think there's going to be an offensive show amongst these NL Central divisional foes. And if you're going to look for some player props in that game on the hitter side, like I said, look to those Cardinals left-handers. Brendan Donovan's got some good BBP against Nick Martinez, and he's seeing the ball well of late. So I like the over in that game. And if you want to look to a little, hits, runs, RBIs, or total bases, Brendan Donovan is my preferred hitter.
Yeah, Donovan, last I checked, unless I'm mistaken, leading the National League in batting average, hitting about 370 in the first month of the season. Colby, phenomenal stuff, man. Really glad we got you back on to give that play out. Thanks so much for joining the show.
Absolutely, anytime. Appreciate it.
Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Colby R. Conway, our friend Colby Conway, MLB analyst over at Fantasy Alarm. And, folks, we're going to get some free hockey. I mentioned the Oilers, after they made it a 3-2 game against the Kings, were plus 325 live on the money line. Well, with 30 seconds left, Bouchard strikes again. He had both goals for Edmonton in the third period. It's 3-3. And, not with 30 seconds left, with a minute 30 left. He ties it up. They're going to OT north of the border. 3-3 to Kings. Pivotal game 4 for them to go home up 3-1. Otherwise, Edmonton showing life in this series. More cashing out with Joe Ceraulo on the other side. Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you through the late hours of your Sunday night, right on into your Monday morning here on the program. Great stuff from our friend Colby Conway there, breaking down the MLB slate on Monday. Like I said at the end of that segment before we went to break, the Oilers taking the Kings to overtime north of the border, down 2-1 in that series. They were down 3-1 in the game going into the third period. Bouchard had a couple unanswered goals himself to tie things at 3. Edmonton, now the favorite. We mentioned when they were down 3-2, they were plus 325 on the money line. They are now $1.35 favorites in this one, with LA plus 105 currently as they're at the intermission, awaiting some free hockey up in Edmonton. But, folks, I do want to get to the NFL draft that wrapped up this weekend, Thursday through Saturday. Obviously, the big story of the weekend, Shedeur Sanders and his fall from grace, a guy who is viewed as a potential top 2, top 3 pick just about a month or 2 ago. A guy who has fallen, then was viewed as, a top 10 pick. Maybe he'll go 9th to the Saints. He certainly can't slip further than 21st. To the Pittsburgh Steelers, taken in the 5th round ultimately by the Cleveland Browns. And there have been a lot of reports and a lot of speculation as to why Sanders may have fallen. Stuff about taking FaceTime calls allegedly, or listening to music in meetings with front offices allegedly. Look, you don't know what's fact and what's fiction at this juncture. You do know falling to the 5th round when you're, I think, a first-round talent pretty undisputably, right? you do know that there's got to be something else behind the scenes. I don't know how much of it is Shedeur. I don't know how much of it is the idea of dealing with the entire Sanders family. And look, I think there's a very real element of this all, that when Deion Sanders was rumored and there were murmurs about him being in on the Cowboys job. At one point, DraftKings put odds up and he was minus $1.50 to be the next head coach of the Cowboys before they went with Shot He Doesn't Know down there in Dallas. He was also rumored to be in on the Vegas Raiders job. If you're a head coach, and I wonder if Stefanski's feeling a little bit of this right now, despite taking him in the 5th round, you got to wonder if Shedeur Sanders winds up on your team, does the clock start ticking? Are they looking at Deion in a year, in 2 years, if you don't, if things aren't happy and you're not performing and Shedeur is not happy? So I'm curious, Shedeur himself aside, how much the family element and Deion may have had to do with the fall of Shedeur Sanders. Let's hear from Andrew Berry on Shedeur's fall into the 5th round.
Shedeur, we talk oftentimes about quarterback being the most important position in the sport. We obviously spent a lot of time with Shedeur throughout the process. He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket, very productive college career. And, we felt like it wasn't necessarily the plan going into the weekend to select 2 quarterbacks, but as we talk about, we do believe in best player available. We do believe in positional value, and we didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the 5th round. And so we love adding competition to every position room, and adding him to compete with, the guys that are already in there. We felt like, that was the appropriate thing to do.
Well, 2 quarterbacks get taken draft weekend. Now there's 5 on the roster. And, you can say what you want, think what you want, infer your own opinion off of Andrew Berry's statement right there. The picture of him and Stefanski when the selection was made it appear as if that was potentially an ownership pick. Because usually you think if you get a 1st-round talent in the 5th round, your coach and GM are going to be ecstatic. And those 2 guys didn't look too ecstatic when the pick was made. And I know football's filled with a lot of stoic characters, right? And some guys may not show emotion that much. Those 2 did not look ecstatic when the Shedeur Sanders selection, went through. So we've got odds now. Who will take the first snap for the Browns week 1 regular season? 5 quarterbacks on the roster. And I don't know if you haven't seen these already, I don't know if you could guess who the favorite is. Kenny Pickett is currently the favorite, and these odds have, I think, updated since this graphic was made. He is currently plus 120 as your short shot. Shedeur Sanders next up, plus 225. Joe Flacco is currently 3-1. I believe that's come down a bit. Dylan Gabriel plus 650. Deshaun Watson, the long shot, at 18-1. This is interesting to me because I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy. Now, I think Shedeur Sanders would be beyond interesting. Something tells me the Browns, Stefanski, probably going to want to go veteran week 1, guy who's been around. Now, Kenny Pickett, it's only, year 3, year 4 for him. So I don't know if you consider him a vet yet, but he's been around the block, whereas Gabriel and Shedeur have not. I think the value in this bet lies with Joe Flacco. We've seen him shorten down nearly a full dollar from 4-1 to 3-1. I think there is value with Joe Flacco in this market. Stefanski and Flacco have incredible rapport. I think Stefanski trusts Flacco as a leader. Don't forget, Joe Flacco got this ailing franchise to 11 wins in the playoffs in a year where they used 5 quarterbacks just 2 seasons ago, right? Just over a calendar year ago. 15 months ago, the Browns were playing playoff football with Joe Flacco under center. So I think a guy who knows this offense, who Stefanski loves and most importantly trusts, I think Flacco is your best bet to be your week 1 quarterback. Because think of it this way. Is Kenny Pickett ready to be a career backup? No. I think if Kenny Pickett gets the job week 1, he's going to think he can run with it. And let's face it, he can't. Joe Flacco knows who he is, and I think is secure and confident with the kind of quarterback and the kind of role he is meant to assume at this point in his career. Joe Flacco knows if he starts week 1, he's probably not starting week 17. He's okay with that. I don't think Kenny Pickett's ready to accept that, which is natural because he's young. because he's still trying to prove that he can live up to the first-round pick that he was. Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick, and Shedeur Sanders wasn't. Ain't that something? I think Joe Flacco 3-1 is your bet here. Because if Shedeur is the next guy to take over, or if it's Dylan Gabriel, let's be fair to the third-round pick, I think Stefanski would rather have those guys learn from Flacco than Kenny Pickett. So on this board, give me Joe Flacco 3-1 to be the first Cleveland Browns quarterback to take a snap in the 2026 regular season. And, I think the market would agree with me there because remember, he was 4-1. Now he's 3-1. It wouldn't shock me if Flacco's the favorite by the time training camp rolls around, if this is even still posted by then. One other interesting thing, or I should say an interesting series of betting opportunities we got after the draft were rookie props. Now, this isn't available. These aren't available for everyone. But we've got one quarterback, one running back, 3 receivers, and 2 defensive players who have props up on the board. So let's take a look at the running back, shall we? Because our friends in Las Vegas, you all want to know about Ashton Jeanty, what to expect, what he's going to do. I think this is really interesting. Ashton Jeanty's rushing yards number, and you can bet this anywhere from 900 plus to 1400 plus. Obviously, laying $4 to catching almost $6. But let's look at the one that's most evenly priced. 1,100 plus rushing yards for Jeanty is minus 110. Now you look at the most evenly priced touchdown prop, it's 7 plus. This was minus 125. We talked about this on draft night, on Thursday night. It is now minus 135. So obviously, what we noticed on Thursday night has been noticed elsewhere as well. 1,100 or more yards, minus 10 cents. 7 or more touchdowns, minus 35. I know you have to lay more juice. I understand that. But I think that for Jeanty, 7 or more touchdowns, way more likely than 1,100 plus yards because he could get 7 touchdowns in the early goings of the year. 19 running backs or 19 rushers had 7 or more touchdowns on the ground last year. Only 10 had 1,100 or more yards. With that suspect O-line, give me the touchdowns play for Jeanty. Folks, do you want to know where the money's really going? Unlike other sources, our betting splits here at VSiN come straight from Circa and DraftKings, giving you insight into where the sharp action's landing. Circa, of course, takes the big bets from the pros, while DraftKings gives a much better broad market perspective, meaning you're getting the real action, not just public money, but what actually moves the lines. See the percentage of bets versus the handle on every game and every sport, so you can make smarter, better bets. Get VSiN's summer special right now, just $59 through August 1st at VSiN.com/subscribe. You won't find a better deal than that anywhere. More cashing out with Joe Ceraulo up next. We'll dive into Monday's MLB slate.
Welcome back to Cashing Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Cashing Out continues here on VSiN with me, Joe Ceraulo, taking you into your Monday morning on the program. And things got weird on Sunday on the Diamond. We'll look ahead into Monday's MLB slate. A slew of games for us on Monday. What do we have here? About 8 or 9 to be exact. Yeah, 8 games on a Monday, which, hey, I'll take about half the league in action on a Monday. Starting with the Mets and Nationals. A little afternoon baseball for us here out west, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and then the night games will all kick in. We've got games going up right up until 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, when the Dodgers, Dusty May, opposite Edward Cabrera, square off in the nightcap on Monday. But Sunday was weird, and, we just mentioned the Mets and the Nationals, and it all started right there with those two teams. The Mets jumped on Mitchell Parker, who going into Sunday was leading baseball in quality starts. The guy had, 5 quality starts, through 5 starts on the season, all of them quality, 6 innings or more, 3 earned or less, and the Mets pounced on him, knocked him out of the game early, 6 runs in the first 2 innings, a 6-0 lead that immediately became a 6-1 lead after the second was complete, and it turned 7-1. At the 7th inning stretch, that 7-1 lead held for the Mets. And then the Nationals, who you could have gotten God knows what price live, ended up storming back, put up a 5-spot off the Mets, bottom of the 7th. Tyler McGill allowed 1 to cross the plate, got charged with another, so he finishes with 3 earned, but it was really the collapse of Jose Buto coming out of the Mets bullpen, who only got charged with 3 earned runs himself, but allowed 4 to score, and did a terrible job putting out the fire for the Mets. So 7-1 turns into 7-6, and then Ryan Stanek on for the second time in 3 days to get the save. Second time in 3 days, blows the save. This whole Edwin Diaz situation, really interesting, because Diaz had come out of a game with an injury the other day against Philadelphia, and then this whole thing came out about hip alignment. One leg looked longer than the other, and so now they're treating him with extra care. And Ryan Stanek in this closer role, I love this guy. As a middle reliever or a setup man, he's got a sub-1 ERA. In the closer role, he's 0 for 2 with 2 blown saves. So the Nationals end up down 7-6 going into the 9th, walking it off 8-7, all because of an error. Stanek not covering first, getting late to the bag, Alonso overthrowing him. Ball goes awry, Nationals score the winning run on that play. And so they erase the 6-run deficit and beat the Mets. They've taken 2 out of the first 3 of the series. The Mets 19-9, still the best record in Major League Baseball. San Francisco 19-10, half game behind them. Detroit and the Dodgers 18-10, a full game back. How about the Padres 17-11? This San Diego team 5-7 on the road. They just got swept at home by Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was 0-4 to start the year on the road. Now they're 4-4. Won the final game in Arizona, won 3 in a row in San Diego. The Rays are hot. The Padres can't hit all of a sudden, and they're injured as hell. No Arias, no Merrill, no Cronenworth. It's been a disaster health-wise for the San Diego Padres. But another weird day in the early goings of betting Major League Baseball. The Mets blow it, lose 8-7. The Yankees sweep a doubleheader against Toronto, where they combine to outscore the Blue Jays 16-3. Max Fried outdueled Kevin Gausman, who started off looking good and then just had one awful inning collapse. The Tigers complete a sweep of the Orioles with a 7-0 win. The Red Sox, the bats came alive at Cleveland. They defeat the Guardians 13-3. The Astros salvage the series in Kansas City. Hunter Brown, who else? 6 innings, 1 earned, 9 Ks. He has been fantastic. His ERA lowers to 1.22, and he continues to be a name to look out for in that Cy Young race in the American League. Hunter Brown has been absolutely phenomenal. Another guy on Sunday who has continued to be phenomenal. How about Jose Quintana? And we hear the word regression surrounding him so often. I've said this before because I backed the Brewers as 25-cent dogs in their last game with him on the bump at San Francisco. That might have been the last time Milwaukee won a game. They hit the skids after that last Quintana start. Well, he goes 5 innings, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts. He's a high-contact guy, not really a swing-and-miss pitcher, but 6 strikeouts for Quintana. His ERA through 4 starts is 1.14. Actually went up after 5 innings of 1 earned. It was 0.7 2 starts ago. It's gone up back-to-back starts where he's gone 11 innings and allowed 2 earned. He's been sensational, continues to be, as the Brewers beat Eric Fedde and the Cardinals 7-1. The Brewers are 14-15. Quintana's 4-0. What an under-the-radar late signing that turned out to be. Cincinnati gets over the Rockies 8-1 as Nick Lodolo goes 7 shutout innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts over his number against the Rockies team that's striking out over 10 times per game at home. Then when I say the day got weird, this is what I mean. Rangers, Giants. It doesn't get any weirder than how the Giants walk that off. First off, Texas should have blown the doors off them. 2-0 early, guys in scoring position who got stranded. The Rangers were in perfect position to assert themselves and absolutely run away with one in the Bay Area and get out of there on a Sunday afternoon. Instead, after being handed a 2-0 lead in the top of the first against Jordan Hicks, a pitcher who has stunk all season, Jack Leiter can't find the strike zone. Now, I had the Rangers' first 5 money line, plus 110. We pushed on that. But that's a push I'm pissed about. Jack Leiter could not find the strike zone. Walks in a run in the bottom of the first to Wilmer Flores. Bases loaded, 1 out. He gave up 1 hit in the first inning And yet the Giants had him loaded, scored a run on a walk. Leiter finishes the day 3 1/3 innings pitched. 76 pitches, 3 strikeouts, 4 walks. 76 pitches, 42 strikes. That means 34 balls. That is terrible. And I know it was his first game back off the IL. I don't care. That is terrible. So the Giants got 1 in the first back, 1 in the fourth. It's 2-2 after 5. Texas's offense all of a sudden went cold, especially with guys in scoring position. They had 10 hits on the day, but only 2 runs. Fast forward bottom 9. Helio Ramos leading off the inning hits a little dribbler. This is the most Little League-esque, wacky finish you've ever seen. First pitch of the bottom of the 9th hits a dribbler, third base side. The pitcher, Luke Jackson, throws it into right field. Ramos goes to second, then realizes, oh shoot, ball's in no man's land. I could take third as well. He's not the most fleet of foot. By the time he's taken third, there's a play on him at third. Jake Berger, the first baseman, overthrows the third baseman, and Ramos comes around to score. 2 errors, 1 play, the most Little League nonsense you've ever seen. And that's how the San Francisco Giants walked it off. Other late games I wasn't thrilled with. Max Meyer, we had 7 strikeouts. He finishes with 6. His first poor start of the year against Seattle, in Seattle, a place where really no one hits. I mean, that's been a haven for pitchers and for unders, and the Mariners, who were up 7-1, end up beating Miami 7-6. The D-backs get in the win column after 3 straight L's, 6-4 over Atlanta. Schwellenbach, 6 innings, 3 earned, 6 Ks, takes the loss. Brandon Pfaadt continues to be sensational. Did give up 9 hits, but in 6 innings, 6 Ks, 2 earned. His ERA comes down to 2.78. His record improves to 5-1. Guy's gotten a decision every start this year. Perdomo homered for the D-backs. How about Eugenio Suarez in that Saturday night game? 4 home runs, and they lose? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm all for being a team player. I'd be livid. I would be ticked beyond belief if I had a 4 home run game and my team lost. Come on now. What did he drive in, 5 or 6? I know a few of them were solo shots, but no one else could pick them up. But Arizona back in the win column. They'll head to Citi Field on Tuesday as the Mets finish up their series Monday in D.C. with the Nationals. More on that game coming up shortly. But folks, do you want to bet smarter, not louder? If so, you need to check out the Sharp Plays at sharpplays.com, where real bettors go to get ahead. Most of the betting world is just noise, but chasing steam, copying picks, recycling the same old value plays, that's not sharp. That's just called being a parrot. The Sharp Plays is the source that they're echoing. Since 2011, it's been locked in with what the real pros are betting. Elite groups, sharp money, the kind that actually move the market. When the Sharp Plays jumps on a side, the line reacts every time. With insider info and powerful AI tools, you're not guessing, you're getting ahead. Sign up for free betting reports, real-time alerts, and next-level intel via email or Twitter. And don't take anyone's word for it. Check the receipts. Full betting logs are live on the site. So I follow the crowd when you can lead it. Go to sharpplays.com. Respected, watched, and feared. That's the Sharp Plays. Speaking of feared, well, the Mets were feared going into this series, but the Nationals, man, have they been quite the competition. Mets are laying about 50 cents Monday. Griff Canning on the bump. He's been sensational. 3-1 with a 3.1 ERA opposite the former Met Trevor Williams. We'll look at ways to bet the Mets and angles for that game, as well as Monday's NBA playoff slate. Up next, Cashing Out with Joe Ceraulo.